Sitting here at the bench this morning testing one of our long-range rifles. This rifle is a 300 Weatherby. It's built around a Winchester Model 70 action, has a Krieger barrel, refluted, muzzle brake, precision fitted it to a squared up Winchester Model 70 stainless action. I prefer Winchester Model 70 actions for hunting purposes. They have many advantages. You've got a 3-position safety. That's in fire position. The safety all the way back is in safe position. Halfway, you can operate the bolt and cycle rounds without the aspect of an accidental discharge. They have very good triggers. The other aspect is they've got a good claw extractor. That's a claw extractor. Basically, it's a copy of the Mauser design of claw extractor. The bolt has a very long gradual cam. That means that it cams the bolt further back than other people's action. This action cams the bolt further back. When you come all the way up, it cams it back, starts to extract the case, the initial extraction. It makes for a much better setup than some actions. You've got a quick release floor plate. You can drop your cartridges out the bottom. All stainless design. This is a Macmillan fiberglass stock with molded in color scheme pattern. As you can see, it's olive and tan and black marble is how it's described. Everything is, all the metal is finished with a matte bead blast finish. The barrel in action is precision bedded into the stock for ultimate accuracy. The trigger is adjusted for 2.5 pounds. It breaks clean with no undue over travel and no creep. We've mounted a Leopold scope on here. Leopold bases. These Leopold bases are cemented to the action. The screws are cemented to the action. Both bases are drilled in the center for a pin. So the bases are screwed to the action and pinned to the action. So if you bump things, you don't lose your zero like you would with something that wasn't set up that way. And in this instance, we've mounted a 4-12 Leopold VXR scope. This has the CDS system, custom dial system from Leopold. And once you have complete load workup and all the data from that, you can send that information to Leopold, call them, and they'll make you a custom dial. This is just the dial that comes with the scope when you buy it. You can take that off, a couple of small set screws here, you put the custom dial on. Now that's matched according to your ballistics. And you've got to understand, of course, this is computed ballistics. I personally like to shoot my rifles at yardage to determine what the actual drop values are, so that we know, so that we don't have wounded game or missed game. Anyway, this scope also has an illuminated dot. This illuminated dot, you can use that illuminated dot 24 hours a day, not just in dark, but in full daylight. Just a small illuminated dot. The reticle has what they call a windplex. It's graduated in 1-inch graduations at 100 yards, left and right, on the horizontal wire for windage adjustment. This scope is extremely clear. It's a reasonably light scope. Hunting rifles shouldn't be overly heavy. They shouldn't have big bulky scopes on them that put a tremendous stress on your mount system. This isn't a scope that'll do that. This scope weighs 14 ounces. And this is a much better aspect than scopes that might weigh, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 pounds, 36 ounces, something like that. It puts a tremendous stress on the mounting system. And anyway, I've sat here this morning and I've shot this rifle, gradually trying to work up a load for this particular rifle, and I had to stop because of a little bit of wind. But anyway, when I started this morning, if you look at the target here, this 3-shot group is the first 3 shots out of the rifle. It's obvious that that load's not going to work. So what do? I simply up the charge. I up the charge a half a grain in this aspect. We were shooting 180 grain Nosler AccuBonds. The group went from this to this smaller 3-shot group. That still isn't what we want. So I changed my seating depth a little bit. This is the next group. This is a triangular group. It's about the same size of group as the previous group, and all the time we're chronographing all these loads and paying attention to our standard deviation. This is an average of a 3-shot string. At the same time, I use a 1-inch Mitutoyo micrometer. This micrometer is specially fitted with ball anvils to contact just a small area right on the belt of the case. I measure a virgin case, take that reading, and once I fired a case, I measure that case at the same place back here on the rear of the belt, and if I pick up any kind of expansion, I record that. I don't want over 1/2 of a thousandth of head expansion across the solid portion of the head of the case. So anyway, at this point with this last group, we were at 1/2 a thousandth of head expansion. So I know that I'm already up about as far as I can go on my charge. I'm still not satisfied with the accuracy. So I switched to another bullet, and I use the same seating depth as I used before, which is pretty much dictated by the length of our magazine box on any bolt action rifle. So I switched to 180 grain Hornady Interbond bullets. That tightened the group a little bit here compared to the previous group here with the Nosler AccuBond, and I simply changed my seating depth here just to about 10 thousandths. It tightened it up almost a bullet hole from that group to this group. So I thought, well, I'm on track here. Of course, all the time, every time I shoot one of these 3-shot strings, I mic all these cases, the case heads, to make sure that I'm not getting more case head expansion if the case is growing any further than what it grew on previous loads. Finally, I upped my charge to 1/2 a grain. Everything else remaining the same. I went from this group to this group. Here's 2 shots in the same hole, one just a little bit out. Now this tells me, along with our standard deviation, which in this instance, with an 86 grain charge of Hodgson's H1000 and 180 grain Hornady Interbond bullet, loaded to an overall loaded round length of 3 5/65 with a Winchester large rifle primer, I got a average velocity of 31.27 and a 7 standard deviation. That's a single digit number. Anytime you get a standard deviation down in the single digits, you're on the right track. If you got standard deviations that are up there, 20, 30, 40 standard deviation. When I started out, my first standard deviation was 43 here this morning with this large group. It's impossible to have accuracy with a standard deviation that's that broad. So as we tighten things up, our standard deviation tightens things up. As we increase our powder charges, that tells us that we're headed in the right direction. If we go up with a powder charge and it goes the other direction, then we're too high. We've got to back off where we started, perhaps back below this. So, in this case, I didn't have to do that. I was headed in the right direction. Of course, I knew fairly well where to start in the first place because I've worked up loads for many 300 Weatherbys over the past 50 years. So this is just basically a rough idea of what I go through here with every rifle that I build. This is one of our long-range models in 300 Weatherby. I think it's a very, very good choice. The whole package, this whole package, as you see it here, weighs 9 3/4 pounds. This is something you can carry around in the mountains and so forth. I'll build one a little lighter than this if somebody would like one, but I think that this is kind of the limit on weight that a guy can stand to carry all day long and use. And I've got to do some further load development here because I'm not quite where I want to be. I'm probably going to switch and go to other bullets. You know, once I've repeated this load that I used previous that shows that it wants to shoot. Well, does it shoot? You don't know. It might have shot now, but is it going to shoot the next time? We're going to have to determine that on another day when we don't have wind.